A wish is something we whisper to ourselves in quiet moments. It's that fleeting thought when we say, I wish I had more time, I wish I was healthier, I wish I could achieve more. Wishes are comforting because they allow us to dream without the weight of responsibility. They give us a glimpse of what life could look like, but they don't demand action. The problem with a wish is that it lives in the future untouched and unchanged. It depends on luck, chance, or circumstances to make it real. A wish is passive. It's like standing at the edge of the ocean, tossing a coin into the waves, and hoping the tide brings something back. A goal, on the other hand, is different. A goal takes that same hope and wraps it in intention. It says, not only do I desire this outcome, but I'm willing to define it, plan for it, and work toward it. A goal transforms a vague dream into a structured path. It doesn't leave things to chance, it invites responsibility. When we set a goal, we move from an emotional impulse to a conscious choice. A wish says, I want to be healthier. A goal says, I will walk 30 minutes every morning before work. The difference may seem small, but it's everything. The goal creates a framework, a measure, and a timeline. This is why so many people feel stuck. They confuse wishing with goal setting. They keep repeating the same desire year after year without converting it into an actionable process. They wonder why nothing changes, forgetting that without structure, even the brightest hopes dissolve into frustration. A wish is fragile, easily broken by distraction, doubt, or delay. But a goal has resilience because it's anchored in clarity. It becomes something you can return to, measure, and adjust. The moment you define it, it stops being abstract and starts becoming tangible. Think of it like building a house. A wish is imagining the home of your dreams, beautiful, vivid, but still in your mind. A goal is drawing the blueprint, choosing the materials, and laying the foundation. One is a vision, the other is a commitment to make the vision real. The true power lies in recognizing that both are connected. A wish sparks the dream, but a goal gives it direction. Without the wish, the goal lacks heart. Without the goal, the wish lacks form. The shift from wishing to goal setting is the bridge between imagination and achievement. Most people set goals by starting with what they want. They say, I want to lose weight, or I want to start a business, or I want to learn a new skill. On the surface, that seems enough. But when the road gets difficult, when the obstacles appear, what alone doesn't give us the strength to continue. The real fuel is not the what, it's the why. The clarity of purpose means digging deeper than the surface desire. If the goal is to lose weight, why does it matter? Is it about confidence, health, longevity, or being present for family? If the goal is to start a business, why is it important? Is it about independence, creativity, freedom, or building something that lasts? Without this clarity, goals remain shallow, and shallow goals collapse easily under pressure. When you understand why a goal matters, it transforms from a checklist item into a personal mission. The weight of responsibility shifts. You're no longer running after something just to achieve it. You're aligning your actions with your values. This alignment creates consistency, and consistency is the backbone of success. Clarity of purpose also makes decision-making easier. When faced with choices, the why acts as a compass. If your purpose is health, you choose water over soda. If your purpose is financial independence, you save rather than spend. The clarity doesn't eliminate challenges, but it removes the fog, making each choice a reflection of what you value most. Many people give up not because the goal is too hard, but because their purpose was never clear. When the struggle comes, and it always comes, the absence of a deeper reason makes it easy to walk away. On the other hand, when the reason is strong enough, the obstacles become part of the story, not the end of it. Clarity of purpose also builds resilience. Imagine two people climbing a mountain. One climbs just for the view, the other climbs because reaching the summit honors a loved one's memory. The one with a deeper why is far more likely to push through fatigue, weather, and fear because the climb isn't just about reaching the top, it's about meaning. Purpose has a way of turning ordinary actions into powerful rituals. Waking up early, saving money, studying late, saying no to distractions. All these behaviors gain weight and significance when connected to a deeper reason. Without clarity, they feel like sacrifices. With clarity, they feel like steps toward fulfillment. Clarity of purpose doesn't mean the path will be easy, but ensures the path will be meaningful. It roots the goal in something greater than the task itself. And when the why is strong enough, the how and the what begin to reveal themselves naturally, turning a simple intention into a sustained pursuit. We often speak about success in vague terms. Phrases like, I want to be successful sound inspiring, but they lack clarity. Success means different things to different people, and without definition, it becomes a moving target. The danger of vague goals is that they give us the illusion of ambition without the accountability of precision. Specificity changes everything. When you take a broad desire and translate it into a clear, measurable statement, you create focus. Saying, I want to be successful, leaves room for endless interpretation. But saying, I will earn a certification in my field by December 31 gives the mind a clear destination to aim for. Specific goals shrink the distance between dream and action. A vague goal is like saying you want to travel somewhere nice. You could end up anywhere, and while it may feel good for a moment, it may not fulfill you. A specific goal is like saying, I want to go to Paris in spring. The details shape your choices, your preparation, and your energy. The clearer the destination, the more purposeful the journey. Specificity also gives us a way to measure progress. If your goal is simply to be better, how do you know when you've arrived? But if your goal is to run a 10K race within 6 months, you can track the miles you run each week and see yourself moving closer. Specificity transforms progress into something visible, and visibility fuels motivation. Another advantage of specificity is accountability. When a goal has a deadline, it demands action. A vague goal can be postponed indefinitely because there's no urgency attached. A specific goal with a time frame forces us to prioritize. It shifts the mindset from someday to today. Specific goals also expose the work required. I want to be successful hides the steps under a blanket of generality. But I will launch an online store with 10 products by March makes the required actions visible. Designing, sourcing, marketing, testing. When you get specific, the steps appear, and when the steps appear, the path becomes manageable. Clarity in goal setting also strengthens confidence. Each time you achieve a specific milestone, no matter how small, you build proof that you are capable. Vague goals rarely give this sense of accomplishment because there's no defined finish line to cross. Specific goals provide those checkpoints where you can pause, celebrate, and move forward with renewed belief. Turning vague desires into specific goals doesn't limit possibility, it unlocks it. It takes ambition out of the clouds and places it firmly on the ground where it can be built, measured, and realized. The more precise the definition, the more powerful the pursuit. Every achievement begins twice, once in the mind and once in reality. Visualization is the practice of creating that mental picture before the world catches up. It's the ability to see the end state clearly, not as a vague hope, but as a vivid experience that feels almost real. This isn't daydreaming, it's deliberate mental rehearsal that primes the brain for action. When you imagine the end state, you give your mind a target. The brain doesn't just respond to what's happening now, it also responds to what it repeatedly envisions. Athletes, performers, and leaders use visualization not just to inspire themselves, but to prepare their bodies and minds for the journey ahead. Seeing yourself cross the finish line makes the training feel more purposeful. Visualization works because it creates emotional investment. When you picture yourself achieving a goal, shaking hands at your promotion, stepping onto a stage, finishing that project, you begin to feel the emotions tied to success. Those emotions act like fuel, making the effort to get there more compelling. The goal shifts from being an abstract task to being a lived experience waiting to happen. It also helps reduce fear. Often we don't pursue goals because the unknown feels intimidating. But when you visualize the outcome, the unknown becomes familiar. You rehearse it in your mind until it feels less like uncharted territory and more like a path you've already walked. That familiarity quiets doubt and builds confidence. Visualization sharpens clarity. Imagine writing a book. If your vision is only, I want to write something someday, the path is unclear. But if you close your eyes and see your name on the cover, the chapters laid out, and the book in a reader's hands, you begin to understand what steps are necessary. The end state reveals the process. This practice also aligns your subconscious mind. When you hold a strong mental image, your brain begins scanning for opportunities, resources, and connections that move you closer to the vision. It's not magic, it's focus. What you repeatedly imagine becomes what you begin to notice, and what you notice becomes what you act on. Visualization is most powerful when paired with specificity. Seeing yourself successful is inspiring, but seeing yourself presenting your ideas confidently in front of a team of 20 makes the vision actionable. The clearer the picture, the stronger the motivation to make it real. Imagining the end state before mapping the steps doesn't replace hard work. It gives the work a destination. It reminds you why the effort matters and where it is leading. The vision becomes the anchor, and from that anchor, the steps begin to arrange themselves with greater purpose. Big goals are exciting. They inspire us because they represent growth, change, and achievement. But they can also feel overwhelming. Standing at the base of a mountain and looking up at the peak can paralyze us with doubt. The size of the vision can make us forget that even the tallest mountain is climbed one step at a time. Breaking a goal down into smaller steps turns the impossible into the possible. When you divide a large ambition into daily or weekly actions, the weight of the task becomes lighter. Instead of asking, how do I run a marathon? You ask, can I run 1 mile today? That small action repeated consistently is what eventually carries you to the finish line. Small steps also create momentum. Progress builds confidence, and confidence fuels persistence. Each time you complete a piece of the process, you create evidence that the goal is moving forward. These wins may seem minor in isolation, but together they build a rhythm that drives you toward the bigger picture. Breaking goals into smaller parts also gives clarity. A vague goal like, I want to grow my business, can feel unmanageable. But when broken down, it becomes specific actions. Research your market this week, build a prototype next week, launch a test campaign next month. Suddenly, the big vision isn't floating in the abstract, it's grounded in a sequence of steps. This method also protects us from discouragement. If you only measure success by the final result, you risk feeling stuck when progress is slow. But if you measure success by completing each step along the way, you create a series of milestones that celebrate progress. The journey becomes rewarding, not just the destination. Another advantage of breaking it down is adaptability. Large goals can feel rigid, but smaller steps allow for flexibility. If one approach doesn't work, you can adjust without abandoning the entire vision. The small steps act as checkpoints where you can learn, recalibrate, and continue forward with improved strategies. This approach also develops discipline. Committing to small, actionable tasks daily or weekly trains consistency. Over time, the habit of steady action becomes stronger than the temptation to procrastinate. It's not about doing everything at once. It's about doing something meaningful every day that compounds into achievement. The process of breaking goals down doesn't reduce ambition. It multiplies its power. It transforms overwhelming dreams into achievable actions. The big vision stays alive, but it's carried forward by the discipline of small, consistent steps that make the impossible feel inevitable. Motivation feels powerful in the beginning. It's the spark that gets you started, the rush of energy when you imagine the outcome, the excitement of a new challenge. But like a firework, it burns brightly and then fades quickly. If you rely only on motivation, your progress will always rise and fall with your mood. Commitment is different. Commitment is the decision you make when the excitement has worn off. It's the quiet promise to yourself that you will show up even on the days when you don't feel like it. Where motivation is emotional, commitment is intentional. Motivation asks, do I feel like it today? Commitment answers, it doesn't matter how I feel, I will do it anyway. The truth is, energy will always dip. There will be mornings when you are tired, evenings when you are distracted, and moments when the goal feels too far away. In those moments, motivation isn't enough. What carries you forward is the commitment you made before the struggle appeared. Commitment creates discipline. Discipline is not about pushing yourself with willpower all the time. It's about building a system that keeps you consistent. When you are committed, you design routines, structures, and habits that support the goal so that even when motivation disappears, your actions remain steady. Another power of commitment is resilience. People who rely only on motivation often quit at the first sign of difficulty because they think the struggle means they're failing. People who rely on commitment see the struggle as part of the process. They expect the obstacles, and instead of walking away, they keep moving because the promise they made is bigger than the discomfort they feel. Commitment also builds trust in yourself. Every time you act on commitment rather than mood, you prove that you can be relied upon, not just by others, but by yourself. That self-trust is invaluable because it becomes the foundation of confidence. You no longer wonder if you'll follow through. You know you will because commitment, not emotion, guides your actions. Motivation may inspire you to begin, but commitment is what ensures you finish. It doesn't rely on fleeting feelings. It relies on a decision made with clarity and reinforced with action. Where motivation is loud but temporary, commitment is quiet but enduring. This is why great achievements rarely come from bursts of energy alone. They come from steady, consistent effort sustained over time. Commitment is the bridge between the initial excitement and the final result, carrying you forward when the spark of motivation has long since burned out. Progress can be invisible when we don't track it. We might be working hard, putting in hours, and making sacrifices, yet still feel stuck because there's no visible evidence of movement. Measuring progress is the act of shining a light on the steps we've taken, reminding ourselves that effort is turning into results, even if the final destination is still far away. When you measure progress, you create clarity. A vague desire like, I want to get better at public speaking, can leave you uncertain about improvement. But if you measure it by tracking how many presentations you've delivered, or how many minutes you spoke confidently without notes, suddenly the improvement is concrete. Measurement transforms progress from an abstract feeling into tangible proof. Tracking milestones also builds accountability. Without measurement, it's easy to convince ourselves we're making progress when we're actually standing still. But when you commit to numbers, timelines, or specific outcomes, the truth becomes harder to ignore. The act of measuring holds us responsible, not only to others but to ourselves. Measurement fuels motivation. Each milestone you hit acts as a small victory, a signal that you're moving forward. These victories compound into momentum. Even when the ultimate goal feels distant, seeing measurable progress gives you the energy to keep going because you know your actions are making a difference. It also helps us adjust. If you're not measuring, you can't know what's working and what isn't. Without data, effort can be wasted on ineffective strategies. Measuring progress provides feedback, and feedback allows for course correction. Instead of guessing, you can make informed decisions that move you closer to the result with greater efficiency. Measurement breaks down the illusion of failure. Sometimes people quit because they feel they haven't achieved the big goal yet, forgetting that progress is happening in smaller increments. When you measure, you see that losing 2 pounds is part of losing 20, or that saving 500 is part of reaching 5,000. The small numbers remind you that success is being built one step at a time. Another benefit of measurement is confidence. There's power in being able to look back and see how far you've come. Numbers don't lie. They tell the story of your growth, your consistency, and your resilience. That evidence becomes a source of strength, especially in moments of doubt. What gets measured gets achieved because measurement transforms hope into accountability and accountability into momentum. Progress tracked is progress multiplied. It turns the invisible into the visible and gives every effort the dignity of being recognized on the journey toward the goal. One of the biggest misconceptions about goals is that once you set them, the path must be rigid. We believe that any adjustment is a sign of weakness, that changing direction means giving up. But the truth is, life rarely unfolds in a straight line. Unexpected challenges, shifting circumstances, and new opportunities all shape the journey. Adaptation isn't failure, it's survival. Flexibility allows you to stay committed to the destination while adjusting the route. If your goal is to run a marathon, but an injury keeps you from training the way you planned, adaptation might mean focusing on recovery, cross-training, or extending your timeline. The vision remains the same, but the strategy evolves. Rigid thinking often leads to frustration. When the plan doesn't go perfectly, many people abandon the goal altogether. They assume detours mean defeat. But those who understand the value of adaptation see detours as part of the process. They don't confuse changing the how with abandoning the why. Adaptation also makes goals sustainable. Life is dynamic, and what worked last month may not work today. If you're unwilling to adjust, you'll burn out or give up. By remaining flexible, you build resilience into your approach. You learn to bend without breaking, to pause without stopping, to change direction without losing momentum. There's also wisdom in recognizing when a particular step is no longer serving you. Stubbornly holding onto a failing strategy wastes time and energy. Adaptation gives you permission to learn from mistakes and choose better methods without shame. It shifts the narrative from "I failed" to "I discovered a new way forward." A flexibility is a form of strength, not weakness. It shows that you are committed to the outcome, not just to your original plan. It requires humility to admit something isn't working and courage to try again differently. That humility and courage create persistence that outlasts temporary setbacks. Adaptation also keeps goals relevant. Sometimes as we pursue a destination, our understanding of it deepens. We realize the goal itself needs refining. Adjusting doesn't mean abandoning. It means staying aligned with what truly matters as we learn more about ourselves and our circumstances. The real failure isn't in adjusting the path, it's in quitting altogether. By adapting, you maintain momentum toward the vision, even if the steps look different than you first imagined. The destination stays alive, carried forward by a willingness to evolve with the journey.